And welcome to the all-new, latest model, made in Australia from all natural ingredients, 7-year warranty, guaranteed on time or it's free. Variety Hour podcast with myself, Sergio Paradise, and the man behind the new purple bins, it's Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, very good to be with you. And yeah, it is free if we miss one.
Yeah. If it's not on time, you don't have to pay.
Was this 3 in a row?
Almost
2 in a row.
Almost 2 in a row. It's 3 this year. It's sort of 3 in 4 weeks.
Gee, we're gathering steam.
It's not a bad strike rate for us.
I've been watching the Helen back, the Melbourne President, and I reckon you and I should do one of them, showing our amazing pre-season.
We could get the Melbourne content team just sitting in here and
just us at the pub.
Yeah.
That's basically
trading the house down.
I spent the weekend watching a lot of sport.
Yes,
and it really is a bit of a pinnacle at the moment of women's sport at the moment. It's covering more than making up for the lack of the men's sport at the moment. Although you got the pre-season and everything, but the AFLW was good again. We missed talking about. We had it on the list. I don't know how we missed it, but the Taylor Harris stuff about your colleague when she hits the ground, she's useless.
Yeah, she's good in the air, but once the ball hits the ground, she's useless. I thought that was fantastic.
I did too. It more highlighted to me, rather than being about the AFLW in a way, it's only jarring because the AFL is so non-controversial.
Yeah.
Like no one ever says anything bad about any other player.
Yeah.
Even though like when I've talked to either ex-players or current players, and they're off mic, they'll tell you all this stuff. Like so and so is hopeless.
He's soft. He's no good. Yeah. He's a closet drinker. He's everything. But, But publicly they don't.
No, they don't. So it was kind of fun to watch that, and
it showed to me. It said to me that. For those who still think it's some sort of Mickey Mouse competition, the girls take it more seriously than anybody, which should come as no great surprise. Yeah. But it just showed me how fair dinkum they are about it. And good on them for getting a bit of sledging going.
For actually being entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually giving the...
If we could take it one step further into a full-blown scrag fight.
That's what you want.
That's what I want to see. I want to see Chriso involved the day after.
I'd love to see you as AFLW CEO and just be like the AFL to appoint a man to that role at some point soon. So, but it was good. I watched Melbourne lose on the Friday night. Yeah. It works so well because you bring all the baggage from...
of your team.
A century of men's comp of your team and all the heart it brings all of that, like, so it's why it works way better, I think, than the BBL.
Yeah.
Because who cares if the Stars lose?
Yeah.
Like, or win, like it's...
Oh, well, that's right. I mean,
maybe younger kids do, I don't know, but I haven't met any...
And the difference and you're right with the Big Bash is that they are concocted teams made up of different mercenaries every year.
Yeah.
I'm always, I think I've said this before, I'm always flabbergasted if I go to the BBL, how many grown men there are in Stars polo shirts or Renegades who actually appear to care who wins. Now, I get it if you're 9 years old, but not when you're 45.
I haven't met many people, though, sports fans. I'm always talking to sports. I've never had any sports fan say to me something like, feel flat because of the Renegades aren't going well this year, or I'm pretty nervous ahead of Friday's game or anything.
Will the Stars choke again? I can't sleep.
Yeah, there seems to be more enjoyment just of the Stars choking because it's fun and because Eddie's president. That's basically
the difference too. As to what you're getting at is that all of the AFLW teams are genuine teams, and if you barrack for one of those clubs, you have been invested in them for probably most of your life.
Yeah.
And you might not know every girl who's out there playing. Yeah. And theoretically you might say, well, it doesn't really matter greatly who wins. But just seeing the jumper run around, you are naturally invested and you want your team to win.
Yeah.
Far more so than the Big Bash.
Yeah, well, it is. I went to the Melbourne Family Day on Sunday.
Yeah.
And They presented both teams as one and called them up as one by individuals. It was really good. It was really well done. So, that integration's good. But I also loved over the weekend, because I watched the Australian Women's World Cup started, and that was good. The opening ceremony was kind of hilarious. It was a bit,
a bit hokey.
There's none that are that good. Like, you go back to some of the Olympic ones, unless you got that huge budget.
Yeah.
They put on,
unless it's produced by Rick Birch or something.
But even then, the budget and everything, so it was kind of a bit funny. They had this terrible.
They had Daryl to sing the horses.
It was one of the rare events that didn't have Daryl Braithwaite singing horses. I sort of missed the whole horses thing. It's very popular, but like in my day, it was just not really.
I've still got the original version of the horses, which wasn't by Daryl, of course.
Who was the original?
Ricky Lee Jones. She wrote it.
Right.
And she was interviewed last year, and she was actually.
I did know he didn't write her.
Was astounded that her song that she wrote on one of her more nondescript albums 30 odd years ago is now like the biggest anthem in Australia. She couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
She's thinking of touring again, just on the strength of Daryl Braithwaite doing one of her songs.
Well, Daryl's made a career. I mean,
exactly.
I'd love that. I'd be quite. It's like that character in. About a boy that Hugh Grant plays. That, the family wrote one popular song. It wasn't even him, and he lives off the royalties.
Well, it's like Noddy Holder from Slade, the lead singer of Slade.
Yeah.
Every year he gets a cheque for another £5 million. That "Merry Christmas, Everybody" song.
Really?
Because it gets played to the death across the UK and Europe from about the middle of November
and that's
onwards.
His whole thing.
And that's his thing. He hasn't toured or done anything for years, but he gets literally millions of pounds every year just from that one dodgy song.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, how good would that be?
Yeah, that's everyone's aim. We should write a Christmas song. That's all it's telling me.
Mike Brady and Joe Dolce written all over it.
Well, it'd be worse if you wrote it, but then Daryl Braithwaite quickly covers it.
Daryl Braithwaite, he'd be welcome to record.
Well, he went broke, didn't he? And that was part of the reason he had
he really struggled there for a while. It was a bit like John Farnham before Whispering Jack. He was washed up doing RSLs.
There's also been quite a few that have had expensive divorces or various things. Leonard Cohen, his last sort of 20 years of touring, was all generated because he'd lost all his money in a divorce.
Well, John Cleese is the same.
Yeah,
he's got about 4 ex-wives he's paying off, and that's why you often see him, and he tours out here regularly. He calls it his never-ending alimony tour.
Yeah.
Just paying off the ex-missus.
The other thing I love this time of year, easily one of my favourite things, is the hype that pre-season games generate. And 1 week of the Marsh series, and I still don't know what Marsh does. It was the JLT series. I never knew who they were. I didn't know who they did. People occasionally, I vaguely got to learn by the end because people would point it out that it was a finance group. I think.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with that.
And what a Marsh! I don't even know what Marsh is.
No, I have no idea. No idea. They're getting.
I thought it was the Marsh Brothers.
They're getting brand awareness of some sort, but no idea if it's.
Yeah, it's weird how no one knows.
Well, I watched. I got to say, nearly every one of the Marsh games over the weekend, just because it was good to see some footy back on. And in most games, there was a couple of recruits or draftees that you want to see how they go.
Yeah. Oh, it's always I watch pretty much every AFLW game and every Marsh Community Series game, which speaks more to how little I've got going on in my life than, but I did love some of the themes that came out of this weekend was Christian Petrarca's won the Brownlow already.
Yeah, already. Who's coming second to Petrarca?
Yeah, and Melbourne are fixed.
Yeah.
They did look way fitter, but that wasn't hard. The other one was that the Gold Coast are a shoe-in for finals this year, if not the Premiership, and Geelong are done. Geelong always phone in their pre-season.
Geelong always look cooked. I must admit, I watched this game on Saturday night too because I wanted to see the 1 and 2 draft picks, that Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson.
Yeah.
And they both look like they're going to be players.
Matt Rowell looked...
Yeah, he just fit right in.
One of those, just all contested possession guys.
And so many kids coming out of school, skinny spaghetti arms. Yeah. He looks chunked up
so
already.
It's like Ollie Wines came out.
Yeah.
And, those... So
they've got
some
the
of
shoulders
those
and arms.
They just look like they're ready to go. But, it is hilarious how much you just... everyone overreacts to these original ones.
About 10 minutes into the third quarter, I said, Harry Taylor, he's cooked. He should not have gone around again.
Yeah.
And I said it with like some authority, as if I would know.
He'll probably go on to have one of his best careers.
Absolutely. And then I said, I haven't even cited Joel Selwood until after I realised he didn't play.
Yeah, he was terrible.
I thought, maybe I'm cooked as a viewer.
I half expected the Geelong Advertiser would just be an all-black front page. That was how I sort of looked at it. So it was kind of, it was like all things. You're just keen to see everyone play again. Yeah. And I look at things like, are they fit?
Yeah.
And it is amazing to me in this professional competition how fitness is still not like you would think there is they're all fit to, I guess, a minimum standard, but you kind of expect that every team would be pretty fit. But,
you would think so.
It doesn't happen that way. No. Regularly, that's not the case.
And it's because they do work so hard in the pre-season that if players miss 2 or 3 weeks due to an operation or niggling injury, they do get well behind the 8 ball, and that was part of the problem with Melbourne last year. Half the side went off for operations and missed their pre-season.
Yeah, it is interesting watching.
Melbourne did right though. They did look fit. They ran out. They looked
fitter than they did last year.
They looked as on song in the last 15 minutes as they did in the first 15.
Yeah, I got to say, same with the Melbourne AFLW games. Being out at Casey, from where I live in Melbourne, which is sort of Melbourne inner city, it's an hour to get there and an hour back.
It's a million miles away, Casey.
Yeah.
First time we went out there for practice matches, I got totally lost. Could not find it. Once you get out there, it's a pretty good facility. All the sporting facilities they got there. But
it's. I look at like Collingwood getting to play at Vic Park or Carlton at Optus or Princess Park.
Princess
and
Park.
I think, that would be a lot more fun because you could just wander down there. Brad Cook wrote in, was Geelong's T-shirt the reason it lost to Gold Coast?
It was a shocker, wasn't it?
They always have a shocker.
Geelong, they're always, I don't know if it's because they're on the coast, but they're always big on their T-shirts, Geelong. The other thing I can't work out Geelong is their training jumpers have those orange stripes on them.
Yeah. OH&S.
Yeah. It is. It's high vis. So they don't run into each other. But it's it happens every year. And again, it's just more merchandise for the club to sell. Now, have you seen the new long-sleeved Essendon one?
No.
I don't know whether it's a training jumper or a pre-match jumper. I don't think they'd wear it in a match. But it's just this abstract, splotchy red and black thing that looks like an old tie-dye T-shirt from the 60s. And I thought that is possibly the worst football outfit I've ever seen. But then I thought, but you know what? They'll probably sell 20,000 of these bloody things.
But like Hawthorn have all used to have the crown for it, and it's like they've calmed down a bit, and it's like others are trying to. The one thing I meant to talk about last week, and which just amused me greatly, was Jeff Kennett announced he'd be retiring as president at the end of the year, and there was a few articles that sort of said, he won't be going out quietly, and now that he's leaving in a year and won't be back, he can really sort of let loose now. And I thought, when has ever... Never not. Like, if we're now about to see a year of Jeff not restrained, and if he's been restrained, it's going to be... It's a bit like remember when Eddie came back to the footy show? Yeah. And he said, we're going to let Sam Newman off the leash. And it was like, what?
It's like, and being an ex-politician as Jeff is, it's a bit like, when Kevin Rudd got steamrolled by Julia Gillard, he said, I'll just fade into the background. There'll be no, nothing coming from me, no destabilisation coming from me. And then he spent the next 12 months just chipping away at her, just like Malcolm Turnbull's doing to Morrison.
Oh, I love it. Turnbull's one's the best when he says, we need to do this, we should be doing this. And every time without fail, people point out if only you could have been Prime Minister and done something about this. You know, it's just this wonderful, like, you know, there's certain things that certain people put on Twitter or Facebook, and no matter what they do, and even if the point they're making is spot on, there'll be the same type of comment in every single response. So you get with Malcolm Turnbull, they go, well, if only you'd been Prime Minister, you know, wouldn't that have been amazing? You could have done something about all this. But the other one that I think in the footy world you always get is whenever Gary Lyon says anything, ever, you know, and SEM put up the thing on, like, Gary Lyon reckons X player is, you know, needs to get fit or something. Without fail, someone will like, well, at least he didn't hook up with his best mate's wife. Like, without fail, they'll be like,
he's going to have to live with that forever. You know?
There's never I challenge people to go and find a Gary Lyon post that doesn't have a comment that says that. It's like there's a team of people whose whole aim in life is they just sit there waiting. And
as soon as they see the name Gary Lyon come up,
it's like,
the great thing about
they've got a Google alert on.
Malcolm Turnbull's ones too is that even though you read some of he's trying to, he thinks he's trying to be, you know, creative or encouraging, whatever. Yeah. But there is a distinct undercurrent of bitterness and anger that you can read in every one of his tweets.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Which is just not going away.
He's the Grant Thomas of politics. Yeah. There's a few Grant Thomas of politics.
He's sitting there down at Point Piper, gazing out to sea with his 100% NBN, because they had it installed, so it was the fastest one in Australia, going straight to his house.
Just so he can tweet angry things quicker than everyone else. In Melbourne, there was a big... people around the country might not know this, and while the world's focused on the coronavirus, in Melbourne, you mentioned up front the purple bins. Melburnians are focused on now, there are 4 different bins.
There's going to be 4 bins.
So there's green, which is for green waste. Yeah. There's... either a red which is your normal
just
general
rubbish,
waste. There is yellow, which is recyclables that are plastic and things like this. Yeah. And there's purple.
Purple's going to be the new one.
Glass, I believe.
Just glass bottles and jars.
Yeah. And Larissa Jane wrote in, are the new purple bins in Victoria designed to remind us that Freo is rubbish? I said that the purple one is for... when your team's lost badly and you need to throw out your scarves and your membership, that's the bin for it. That would make more sense to me.
See, I think the purple one should be purely for clash jumpers because it don't work for any team. Now, you see them lined up, though, the 4 bins. Yeah. It looks like the...
who's got room
gay flag?
Yeah, it does. It does look the pride flag. Yeah. Who's got? A few people said that they said like it's midsummer brought everywhere. But who's got room for 4 bins?
Oh, exactly. There was some talk that it was going to be 5 or 6 at once. So this will be the thin edge of the wedge. I mean,
it's like the AFL are running it. It's like you start off with a simple thing, and it's just getting more and more complex.
In 2 years' time, there'll be 8 bins per house or apartment.
Yeah.
It'll just be. The whole city.
You'll need a degree to know.
Bins.
Yeah, you'll need a degree to know what bin is what. You know, you'll have to dedicate your front room to bins. It's like, what bin's going out tonight? I think it's
there'll be a roster.
Off-white one.
Yeah.
The one for tuna cans, just tuna cans.
Yeah, just things that have contained elements of fish.
Ross Green wrote in, this is a bit of a sledge towards us. What's more likely, a Ben Simmons 3-pointer, a Bernard Tomic first-round exit, or your podcast going back-to-back? Well, the Bernard Tomic first-round exit's almost a sure thing.
That's a given.
That's actually a sure thing.
Ben Simmons does shoot the occasional 3-pointer.
I think he's hit 1 in his career, but that was against the Knicks.
We've gone back.
They're not a real team. This is us going back. But while Ross is inaccurate in some of his points, his general point is true. Yeah. He's won he might not have won the battle on each of those points, but he won the war.
And should I point out that when I asked for questions yesterday, Ross was not the only person to make this kind of point.
Oh, no. We've made a rod for our backs there. Yeah. We can't blame anyone but ourselves. Damien Morgan wrote, are we looking at a Gold Coast Melbourne Grand Final?
Well, there had to be a clash of traditional rivals.
It's a sure thing after the weekend.
How big would Melbourne Town be? How big would the grand final parade be?
Oh, amazing. If Gold Coast are in it. Yeah. Well, a bit like this week. It's a bit like with GWS. Another bit of news that came out was, you can't go a week in Melbourne. We've had the St. Kevin's, issues around pedophilia and the reaction to it and the ongoing rolling disaster they've got. So now that that's sort of been put to bed as a major issue, I'm sure the ramifications will go on there for ages. But we have to have another private school story because it's been in the Melbourne media. Caulfield Grammar have just opened a $25 million aquatic and wellness centre.
Yes.
Everything is wellness. Really, wellness. When I read wellness normally and people on Instagram that pointing out wellness things, it's usually cover for an eating disorder.
Exactly.
It's not actually wellness.
When I was at school, the wellness centre was the first aid room.
Yeah,
that had a part-time nurse, if you were lucky.
Yeah. So the fact that it's nice to see a school can afford a $25 million aquatic and wellness centre. Now, this jumped around a story. The story ran that they won't name it after their former student, Mac Horton, gold medalist, Olympic 400 metre freestyle gold medalist, because the school has tight relationship with China.
Yeah.
Then the school came out and said they hadn't made a decision yet. Yeah. But then it sort of came out today that they've said they've reopened the process. Now, I'm trying to follow. I'm not pretending that that's exactly what's happened because I'm trying to follow it through the media, which you'd be shocked to learn this, Serge. But the media sometimes are not accurate. They're not always accurate.
Are we part of the media?
Definitely not.
We're part of the fake news media.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly how much, whether this is 100% true, whether they're, but it keeps bumping around. But I did think it was funny that, because obviously Mac Horton's attacked Sun Yang, the notorious Chinese drug cheat, as I like to call him. Yeah. What is really interesting about this is I thought it's typical of Australia. You can name a school after a prime minister a pool after a prime minister that drowned, but not an Olympic gold medalist. So if you can swim, you can't have a pool named after you.
No, exactly.
I mean, the Harold Holt pool is still the greatest.
People around the world are still.
Yeah, when you tell them that, they just,
Wasn't he the guy who drowned? Yeah, that'd be the one. That was the one.
Yeah.
They got a pool over.
We had a pool after
great,
him.
yeah. Irony's not dead.
It's like the JFK shooting range.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see too many of them in downtown Dallas.
It's so great. I still love it, that one. And a few people pointed out that the Chinese might have got Harold Holt too.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Mac Horton is just this morning the school have come out and said, no, look, we haven't made a decision on this.
Yeah, they put out a press release.
We may well name it after Mac Horton, but it's as the suggestion was that because Mac Horton has upset the Chinese himself, as you say, for bagging Sun Yang. Yeah, pointing out that Sun Yang's a filthy drug cheat. But Caulfield Grammar have enormous business interests in China. They've got a Borders campus over there in Nanjing, I think.
Right.
And it's like most of the private schools in Melbourne. Not only do a lot of them now have campuses in China, I know Haileybury does, but some of the other schools do, but so many of the kids
that come over,
that go to their Melbourne campuses are from China.
It is pretty funny that they're doing
Mac
this.
Horton, he's one of those blokes. He just does not look like a troublemaker to me, does he?
No, but, I mean, when you read Sun Yang and what they did with and smash the vials and all that, and the way the Chinese
still haven't
did cover it up.
Have they?
They did cover it up for a long time, didn't report it for way longer than the rules say. So it is kind of an odd one. I do love on Twitter if you tweet. I get no more greater joy in life, which said something about me, than when I bag Sun Yang on Twitter. The Chinese bots you suddenly get. They are wonderful.
I've only got a fraction of followers that you have, but when that happened a year or two ago, and I said something about Sun Yang, and immediately started getting dozens of tweets in reply, all in Chinese lettering, which I couldn't
which luckily
read.
You're fluent in.
I'm fluent in Mandarin, not Cantonese. There is a difference. And I just think, wow, people do read this this crappy job.
I don't know. I think they just got bots that scour the
no
Twitter.
Question. It
and they just
from somewhere.
The minute you do it, but it does make me laugh, the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to it being the Mao Zedong Aquatic and Wellness Centre.
Yeah, wellness centre, part of the 4-year plan from commemoration of when they invaded Japan in 1876.
The Olympics as well. We were talking about.
Well, hang on, just before we leave the pool.
Oh yeah, you got
the other problem. They've got a problem at Caulfield Grammar with the pool.
Like they spent $25 million and there's a problem with it.
You see, if I'm going to spend $25 million on a pool for my backyard, which I am considering, quite frankly, I would make sure it was deep enough to dive into.
Well, what do you mean? It can't be dived into?
No, down the diving end. They've got your diving boards.
Oh, they do have a diving board.
They've got diving boards,
right.
And that was the plan, is to have, I think it's 3 metres, 5 metres and 10 metres as the standard sort of heights for diving. But they haven't built the pool deep enough.
Oh, to do it?
To do it.
So all the kids are breaking their necks.
So if to dive off a 10-metre board at Olympic level or competition level, the pool has to be a minimum of 5 metres deep. Which is a pretty deep pool, but you're coming off the 10-metre board. You want
a bit of water.
Well, you want a bit of water.
You don't want to jump into a barrel. It's not a circus.
It's not some circus thing you see on Looney Tunes where they go off the barrel. So they're looking at that Caulfield Grammar. I got to say, I reckon there's some bloke in planning at Caulfield Grammar. Yeah. Who's probably just sent his resume to St Kevin's.
It would be a bloke too, because we're never good at measuring distance. We're always a bit loose with
it's got bloke written all over it. You go, oh, that'll do. Yeah, that'll be right.
The other thing in the Olympics, is we should just mention we love China because of our vast business interests in China. Yeah, the variety hour is huge over there.
It is.
About as big as the AFL is actually. Talking Olympics, the coronavirus, which you and I have offered to prove that it's not caused by coronas. We've offered Corona that we would sit and drink it in public to prove this. But they haven't come through on that. No. There's some speculation, and it has seen in the last week, the language from the World Health Organizations and a few other people involved in this has sort of escalated on the seriousness of the what is it? COVID-19.
COVID-19 is its official
name now, because the coronavirus is actually a family of viruses. There's 4 of them that already. Everyone has had coronavirus at some point.
Every time
not COVID-19, which is the one that is currently
killing everybody.
There are 4 coronaviruses that just go around like the common viruses and colds every year. But so that's why they've given this specific name. But it's saying that the 2020 Tokyo Olympics could be delayed or even cancelled.
Could you imagine? Or you're going to say, I mean, just as you say, the last few days, the coronavirus thing, I mean, it's closing down parts of Europe. It's hit the Middle East. It's a matter of time before it...
If it keeps going like this, it's...
At this rate, because the Olympics aren't due until July, 4 months away, 4 or 5 months away.
Yeah.
There's a lot can happen in that time, and it may well be the case that, closing down the Olympics is one thing, but the whole of the Middle East may be completely shut down.
Well, I don't want to alarm everyone, but I think we'll all be dead by then.
Yeah. Now, and no one will care what Mac Horton's pool's called.
Well, given Caulfield Grammar spent $25 million on their aquatic and wellness centre, Japan have already spent $25 billion on the games,
and now it's blown out 2 or 3 times.
So it would be an absolute disaster financially.
Yeah, there's hundreds of thousands of new hotel rooms being built, as well as all the infrastructure that cities build for the Olympics.
They're not cheap, the games.
No.
So that could be...
What are they going to do if nobody turns up, nobody comes?
They've had this before in the Olympics where, due to various circumstances, there's been few people who have come. The 1904 Olympics were moved from Chicago to St. Louis under some political pressure, and no one went because no one wanted to go to St. Louis.
Yeah. And the World Wars never helped.
Never helped. The war never helps. It's never good for the Olympics. The other thing around this, so you got the potential that's not happening now. It wouldn't be an Olympic year.
Yes.
if we didn't have John Coates of the AOC, the Australian Olympic
hasn't he bounced back?
Oh, isn't he doing wonderfully? Having a fight with John Wiley, who's the head of the Australian Sports Commission.
They still haven't kissed it mate up, have they?
No, so this week they're bracing for cuts to funding, they're saying. And they've absolutely... So Coates has come out and absolutely whacked John Wiley again. Now, these two had a blow-up a few years ago at the Athletics.
Almost a physical.
Yeah, everyone was surprised. So they're not the most professional of people. They hate each other so much.
And they've all been pointing the finger at Sports Australia for wasting so much money lately.
Yeah.
And they're cutting budgets to all the Olympic sports, especially swimming, which is the one sport that traditionally gets the most amount of money because it's the most successful.
How can you cut funding to sports in Australia? Yeah. I mean, it's like cutting the wine industry in France. Like, you know, we should be talking about, like, there should be too much money. That should be our real problem. Why are we giving all our sports money to Caulfield Grammar? That's the real problem. Why is it all going to there? Coates is saying Sports Australia is spending way too money on itself.
Yeah.
On its execs and everything, which is probably true.
Oh, I'm sure it probably is. But Coates is a fine one to be pointing the finger about. About getting, overpaid, and underworked.
Yeah.
And, and the other thing is the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sport. Yeah. They reckon now it's pretty tired and run down and almost derelict. They're saying there's hardly any athletes there.
Well, we need to have another. This is what happened, in the 70s when we had the Montreal Olympics and we didn't win a single gold.
Yeah,
and we were just rubbish, and we finished way down on the tally. And
that was after that they built the AIS.
There was such outrage in Australia that we were that bad that's when all the money started to come into sport partly under Whitlam, then Fraser, but then the AIS was built under that because so you could almost see that happening again.
Well, if these games in Tokyo do go ahead and Australia wins next to no medals, the fingers will be swiftly pointed at the Sports Australia and the cutting of funds and all this. So you may well be right.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's hardly any athletes at the AIS at the moment is just bizarre.
Yeah.
Given that there's games on in 5 months'
We'll save
time.
a lot of money if there's no the coronavirus means they're not happening.
It's like, remember that famous episode of Yes, Prime Minister, where Sir Humphrey pointed out to the Prime Minister that the hospital they'd recently built has just been won an efficiency award.
Yeah, it's the most efficient ever.
And he pointed out it's because they have no patients. And hospitals work much better and more efficiently and certainly more cleanly when there's no sick people in them.
It's true.
And it looks like they've assumed that sort of attitude for the Australian Institute of Sport.
I love the one thing that social media has done for us, apart from probably destroy us politically and as a race, is whenever you write anything, for people that love to point out punctuation, grammar and spelling mistakes, it has been an absolute boon for them.
Yeah.
Like, this is their golden age.
Yeah.
And it happened again on the weekend, not in the normal way of like someone's written a tweet and someone's written there instead of there, or
I've been guilty of pointing this out on occasion to people.
Yeah.
Usually if somebody...
There's no better way to make friends.
Yeah. Whenever somebody says something abusive and they get "your" wrong or put the apostrophe in the wrong place, or they put an apostrophe in a plural, that's my favourite pet hate.
That's your one that you get. Yeah. See, grammar and spelling, and anyone's read my stuff would know that I just don't care about it enough. Yeah. Like, to me, it's like, do you get the point or not? You can disagree with the point, but I don't have that eye for detail that you need to be really good at that stuff. And so I do find it annoying when someone point out, like a little bit, and you're like, okay. Especially with tweets, which you're writing in 2 seconds on your phone.
Yeah, right. 2 seconds of your fat thumb.
There's autocorrect. There's all these things, and but there's But this week, the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, got a new tattoo across his back. It was quite big.
Oh, it's a big one, yeah.
And it said God's will, and then underneath that it said Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which I know are your favourites. But everyone quickly pointed out that there was no apostrophe after in God.
Oh, between gods. The D and the S.
So it wasn't an individual God. He was basically saying, because he's a very hardcore Christian, basically saying that, you're promoting polytheism. You're promoting multiple gods.
He worships multiple gods.
Yeah, he's into the Norwegian god, the Norse gods.
But surely adding an apostrophe would be simpler than removing one.
Well, I think
in a tattoo
I looked
sense.
at this tattoo and I thought, if you're going to have a mistake in a tattoo, and there's been some absolute crackers over the years, that's
probably the one.
He can get a quickly put an apostrophe on there. But the joy people in pointing this out, it was just I wish I could be that joyful
story in itself.
It was a huge story. Yeah. I wish I could be that. I wish I got that much joy out of something so small.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely amazing. So that was one of the that fact that was one of the big sports stories of the week. I loved, but I also loved the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight.
Now I watched the replay. Sort of highlights of this, and
this was their second matchup.
It was a comprehensive victory, you'd have to say. He absolutely hammered him.
Tyson Fury absolutely belted him, and bit of a controversy where Wilder said he didn't want his trainer to throw in the towel.
Yeah,
but anyone watching it
he was done. He was done. It saved him.
But the ring entries to this, for those that didn't see it, they had costumes,
took it
music.
To a new level, didn't they?
They went longer than the fights. They were like WWE. Remember WWE? I think it was WrestleMania 3 where they all came down in carts.
Yeah.
It was like that, like it was.
It was like Alex Rance turning up to the AFLX.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And someone told me that one was because Andre the Giant was so big and he and old, and his knees were done and everything, that they did those carts because they didn't think Andre could walk to the ring and fight. He could do one or the other. So these big carts came down, wheeling them down.
Yeah.
So it was way over the top, all these things. Now, the Deontay Wilder's camp, his trainers come out and said, and it looks like there's going to be a rematch because the first one was a controversial no decision.
Yeah.
This one was Fury all over him. So Wilder's camp, and it does look like there's going to be a rematch. It was a 7th round technical knockout.
A rematch would be massive for this.
Because unlike most boxing, it wasn't an amazing, it was a bit one-sided, but it was at least an actual fight.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't like you see so many of these other ones, big boxing matches that have either been, Conor McGregor and Mayweather, or they're an Anthony Mundine fight, or they're over in a second, like some of the UFC ones have been recently, where you just go, well, that was a waste of my time and money, and it's so novelty, I couldn't care. This, for boxing fans, this was a proper heavyweight championship. But in all the greatest excuses of why you don't win, this might top it, where his trainers come out and said, because he came out in this massive outfit.
Yeah, the crown on.
A crown on and a mask. And they said that his heavy ring outfit as he walked down or came out might have been so heavy that it exhausted him before he got to the ring because it was jewel encrusted and everything. And they reckon that might have slowed him down during the fight. Like,
thought that one through, Deontay.
Yeah, basically, he just wore himself out, but like wearing too heavy a costume.
Well, I know whenever before I ever have a fight, I always check my jewellery. This is one of the great excuses of all time.
Well, at the same time, though, it did look so over the top.
Oh, it did. It looked absurd.
It looked like he looked like it probably took him a good couple of hours to get ready. So you can't imagine that his head was in the game when there seemed to be an immense focus on what he was wearing. Like, it was kind of bizarre. There's something to be said for the AFL just saying you all have to wear your team tracksuits,
tracking tops.
Yeah, that'll do us, thanks. So I thought that was one of the greatest excuses of all time in sport.
Oh yeah. Well, if they do have a rematch, will they go again? Do you reckon with the big ring entry outfits?
Or
will he go back to minimalised? Well, whatever happened just to a satin dressing gown with your name on the back?
Yeah, that's right. It was so much easier. Yeah. It did look bizarre. Now, the match review officer, obviously, because we had the
Marsh series over
the Marsh
the weekend.
series back. A match review officer is back. Had a bit of work to do over
Chris
the weekend. Yeah. North's Marley Williams been given a 2-match suspension for his high bump on the Bulldogs' Ed Richards. Dane Zorko, this is probably one of the most amazing bit of footage I've seen in a while. He copped a $2,500 fine for pushing Kane Farrell over the boundary line into a trainer.
Yeah.
Which the amazing thing about it was, so they're going towards the boundary line for no real reason. The ball was about to go. They weren't even close. Zorko pushes Farrell really hard. Farrell goes cannoning over the boundary line into the trainer. This female trainer's doing a rub down on a Brisbane trainer, on a Brisbane player, and the Port Adelaide player cleans her up, right? And she didn't look like she was in...
She needed a trainer.
Yeah. And Zorko doesn't even go and he's the captain, doesn't even go and check if she's okay.
It was
or
a very
happened.
Strange thing.
It was just
for
bizarre.
Him to do. Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying he meant to do it. Like he thought, if I push this guy now, he's going to clean up that trainer.
Yeah.
But his lack of seeming, I mean, maybe he didn't see it happen. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he turned around.
It looked to me, I watched it a couple of times. It looked to me like he just gave him a bit of a push out of frustration that the ball was going out of bounds. He didn't get it.
Yeah.
And this may have been an unfortunate result because you can't imagine he said, if I push him right hard
No, I don't think he did that.
It's going to fix somebody up.
But it was more the aftermath that he did. But for all we know, afterwards he went... He didn't either know it happened and he went and checked on her after the game or at the break or something. But it did look really poor.
Yeah.
Adelaide's Matt Crouch got a $2,000 fine for a high hit on Clayton Oliver that left Clayton spitting blood out on the turf. Which,
I reckon he was a bit lucky there, Crouch.
Super lucky. Because even Crouch said when I saw him spitting blood up, I was a bit worried.
Yeah. Well, it looked from a couple of different angles that he got the point of his elbow right onto Oliver's chin. Now, normally that's going to get you a suspension any day of the week these days.
Well, because the Marley Williams one was... That was setting a precedent that you can't go head.
You simply just cannot, when the bloke's, especially when he's sort of half on the ground, you cannot bump him in the head. 2 or 3 years ago, old timers are going, it'll take the bump out of the game. Yeah. Whereas now, I think everybody knows is you simply can't bump a bloke in the head.
It's more taking cheap shots out of the game. You can still,
nobody argues anymore.
You just got to do it better. You can still, look at what Sydney Stack did to Jack Viney. I mean, you can still land a fair bump.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I love when old timers and fans as well say, it's not tough anymore. And you go, have you seen how much fitter and faster these blokes are than they were?
Go and watch the game from the fence, not from a super box, not from the long room.
And how it the sound.
How hard
it's the sound.
Hit. And then tell me it's gone soft.
It's like I'd die if I was out there. Like they absolutely.
Yeah, you would.
Well, if you weren't trained for it,
not because that you're unfit or anything.
Well,
it's because somebody would. One of the players would
get him.
Do you? There's that Titus O'Reilly.
Well, you realise a lot of the old.
It's going to be worth 8 weeks.
You realise a lot of the old sort of tough stuff was just off the ball.
Yeah, it was people punches behind play.
It wasn't actually that tough. Like a lot of it was what we would now call snipering.
Yeah. So
but it used to be sort of held up as exciting or made you a real man to whack someone when they weren't looking. But so I'm looking forward to those precedents.
There is still a place for that, of course.
I'm looking forward to those precedents being set and then being ignored throughout the year.
For the rest of the year,
Max Gawn got named new captain of Melbourne.
Yeah, real great surprise. I guess the only real surprise is they sort of demoted Jack Viney back to vice captain.
Yeah.
And it's going to be simply a 2-man leadership group.
Which is, after Brisbane announced, what was theirs, 8?
9, I think. 9 players.
Yeah. And I think someone pointed out Carlton had one that was 10 not that long ago. So
I hate leadership groups. I think, this is an old-fashioned view too, but really, if you've got a good, strong captain and vice captain, that's all you need. That is all you need.
All I can see is I think leadership groups are just acknowledging that there are certain leaders in the club across the different areas of defence and midfield and forward and various things. And, but a bit of it is a bit like, I reckon, we've got some players that we want to kind of make feel special.
Yeah.
So, and we want them to stay at the club.
We don't want them to.
So we'll make them. We'll add. It's like we don't want to give them more money, but we'll make them part of the leadership group.
Yeah, they're not going to put their hand up for a trade at the end of the year if they're in the leadership.
It's like being house captain.
Yeah,
you don't have any real.
Doesn't mean
anything to anyone, but you can put it on your CV.
Yeah,
and which no one will care
nice
about.
Blue badge on your blazer.
Yeah. So Max Gawn. I don't think that was as big a surprise. Gawn being named captain, so that was sort of pretty simple. We talked about the Women's T20 World Cup. Watched in horror last night.
Yeah, I watched a bit of it last night.
Well, when they lost to India and they choked against India, absolutely choked. But then last night, watched all of last night, and they collapsed early.
Yeah, I was
3 wickets very quickly.
I recorded Survivor last night, so I could watch this, and they looked when I 3 for 10. I thought, and this would be there's still no guarantee of going all the way. But to have them knocked out of the contest early would have been
losing to Sri Lanka
biggest nightmare for the organisers.
Oh,
because they're all wanting. They've already sold 80,000 tickets to the final at the MCG.
Yeah.
Now the Australian girls aren't there. Half them won't turn up.
No, I mean the only way that would change it, India and Pakistan maybe get in. They'll bring a crowd, but just not the same. It's all set up. They've all bet on Australia winning,
getting there.
So they don't look in good. Sometimes you look at these tournaments and you World Cup and all that, and you go, a team just seems off.
Yeah, they just.
And I'm not sure if that's going to change. Like they've got the talent to change it, but geez, but going out that quickly would
not have been a good look.
Oh, terrible.
So how many more games have they got? There's still quite a few.
There's 2 more, and they got to, they're basically because they won last night. They're a very good chance now of
but
going
they're still
through.
Pretty much. They probably can't afford to drop another one.
No,
it's keep winning.
No, they got to keep winning. You saw this morning, so I've not a lot of knowledge about this.
Yeah,
it did make me. I shouldn't, but it made me laugh when you told me about it.
At a soccer match in France just on the weekend.
What level was this?
It wasn't the highest level. It was more of a. They didn't specify exactly what level, but it was sort of at a sort of suburban level, shall we say. So it certainly wasn't like the French highest league. But a player bit another player. There'd been a fight, a bit of an all-in, right?
Yeah. Right, so it wasn't just out of nowhere.
It wasn't just in the middle of play.
And biting is just one of these things that no one... you can't condone it.
You can't condone and you can't get away with it.
Yeah.
He bit an opposition player on the penis. I know how juvenile that we burst out laughing.
Oh, it was like when last year there was a spate of ruptured testicles in the AFL. Yeah. And you know how it's like the more painful it is, the funnier it is if it didn't happen to you.
Yeah. Well,
so he bit him on the penis.
Yeah.
How?
It wasn't. There was no ruptured testicles. You see, because now the players now have testicle awareness, so that they've got away there. But no, he bit him right on the penis and left the bloke with 10 stitches. So it must have been a pretty good match.
I was about to say, I don't think I could fit 10 stitches. I'm impressed.
He's done like the similar. Remember when Peter Philandia playing for Sydney?
Yeah,
he bit a bloke's testicles.
Yeah, right.
But
it's alarming that that's happened more than once. Gee, that 10 stitches.
10 stitches? Well, the bloke who did it...
He must have bit him pretty... I mean, I know it's a soft appendage. I'm assuming it was soft at the time, but it's a... He must have really...
Not only did he bite, with 10 stitches, you think he might have grinded it a bit, But the bloke who did it, he's been suspended for 5 years.
I think so.
But the bloke who was bitten, he's been suspended for 6 months.
What for?
I've been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Jeez. He must have done something else in the fight.
They said he probably started the fight, so he deserves to go as well.
Jeez.
So take your 10 stitches and go and sit on the sidelines.
You would think that 10 stitches in the penis would be penalty enough. you think you
probably wouldn't be playing for the next few weeks anyway.
Maybe not. I'll probably never be playing again. Yeah, I might give up soccer at that point.
That I would think would be a season-ending injury.
That would be terrific.
Worse than ACL.
They go like the injury list and they have like Bob Smith calf. 1 to 4 weeks, and then it's got bitten penis. It just, you couldn't, if you wrote that in a book, people would go, you're making it up.
And I think he went off as he was being carried off the field. Yeah, he had the green whistle in his mouth, so it must have been pretty painful, as you'd imagine.
Oh, that would have been terrible.
10 stitches. Imagine the doctor going, geez, did I spend 6 years at medical school to be doing this?
The best would be like, say this guy's name's Bob for the sake of easy. So, Bob, when are you playing soccer next? Oh, I'm not playing anymore. Oh, why? Oh, a bit of bloke on the penis.
I've retired.
Sorry, you've got to... There must be a backstory to this.
Yeah, you might want to explain yourself a bit further.
Well, Bob. If you hear his version, the guy was asking for it.
He'd been asking for it all match.
Oh, well, on that note...
Oh, it's always good to finish on a big one.
That story really sums up this podcast. Actually, why didn't we have that leading?
Yeah, I was about to say, having it last, should we may not have led with that, but never mind.
Before we go, I should add, I've got Comedy Festival coming up. It's a month away.
Yeah, sort of late-ish March.
March
25th.
I think it's 25th through the April 19th. So I'm doing, I think it's like 23 or 24 shows.
Yep.
Again this year. This is my third year. And it's called what is the name of the show? It's called it's a guide to cheating in sport.
Right.
So it has
something you'll know a lot about.
I'll put a link in the show notes, but I basically just found all these, like, I'm just been finding all these funny stories about basically how much cheating in sport goes on.
Oh, I can imagine, fully imagine.
Well, the idea came to me of doing a show about this is one of our favourite ever stories. And I did a bit of this in the Comedy Festival last year, so I'm not doing this story as part of it, but just it was where the idea came from. It's still my favourite story in sport almost, is the Sydney 2000 Paralympics, where the Spanish basketball team in the intellectually disabled category entered people who weren't intellectually disabled but pretended to be and won gold.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the pinnacle of cheating, because it's of all the reasons to cheat, why would you do that? Like, what? There's no money, glory, fame. You're not. You know what I mean? Like, and you're just hurting people who are Paralympians, and it's the mentally impaired, which is people with an IQ of less than 70. So it's sort of Down syndrome. A lot of people play in this category. So you're basically taking away the ability to play for the Spanish people who couldn't normally qualify, and denying a gold
people a chance.
Yeah. So it just proves to me that humans will cheat at anything. When it comes to sport. And so I've been doing lots of research.
And the other thing about that is that they were so easily unmasked, if you like, because when the match was televised back in Spain, people are going, that bloke, hang on, that bloke's
I know that guy.
That bloke's he's my accountant.
Yeah. And the other thing is that when they recruited these guys, which is amazing that you can recruit 10 blokes to agree to this.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's 10 people in one country that all go, I'm happy to participate in this. They one of the guys they hired that they didn't realise was an undercover Spanish investigative reporter. So he played every match, won the gold, got the gold, went home and wrote the tell-all story. So the whole show's about like how we're cheating, and that some of the stories are just that had crazy.
That could have been like the world's greatest ever prank. But you could
but it wasn't. They were doing fair income. And actually the Paralympics are rife with cheating. Absolutely right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
just as bad as the Olympics. Like on that regard, they are exactly the same. So it wasn't. They weren't the only ones that did it. So anyway, Comedy Festival show. It's at Trades Hall during the Comedy Festival. I'll put a link up, but love people to come along. Last few years been great, and most of the nights sell out. So if people want tickets, get in, because it always happens towards the end of the run. I get people ringing me going, can I get tickets? And we literally couldn't get people in the last couple of years. So
that's a good problem to have.
It was a great problem to have, but it was funny when people were ringing, what do you mean I can't get tickets?
Like, I wouldn't have thought that.
I was trying to promote it for... Yeah, exactly. It was like, Anyway, great to sell out a room that fits 3 people.
Yeah. Also, I have to call you Hughesy for now.
Not quite his numbers. All right, well, we'll be back. We will be back next week.
We will. That'll make it 3 in a row.
And it will be next week. We'll have new favourites for the Brownlow and the Premiership.
We will.
See you then.